each week I get a lot of questions about what is the best rum to use in cocktails. But the thing is, it's such a hard and loaded question to answer. But it is a topic we talk about quite a lot in my Sunday night live show. But as I know not all of you join me on a Sunday night live show, I wanted to use this video to try and point you in the right direction, to try and help you create some of your own masterpieces. Now, if you're looking for an outright list of specific rums to use in your cocktails, this really isn't that video. But hopefully what this video will do is kind of arm you with some knowledge and help you and point you in the right direction. Hi Rum fam, welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Steve the Barman and I'm trying to help you on your rum journey, mainly focusing on normal rums and spiced rums for under £50. So going back to the question, what is the best rum to use for cocktails? Why is it such a loaded question? Well, the simple answer is, it's because there's no right answer. Not only will it vary from person to person, because I guarantee it, your palate will be slightly different to my palate, but it'll also be down to the type of cocktail that you're making. For example, let's start off and let's break down the daiquiri. Now, it's a running joke in my membership community that I don't do moody daiquiris. Now, if you're wondering what the hell moody daiquiris are, think kind of a longer aged, darker golden rum, and you've got to thank Windy in my membership community for that term, moody daiquiris. Now me personally, I much prefer the sort of crisper and lighter daiquiris that a column still rum will give me. But even now, with all the rums I'm going on to taste, even that is being pulled into question. Now don't get me wrong, my favourite daiquiri is still this little beast, Rum Coke, the Carta Blanca, Cuban rum. Nothing can compare to that for me personally. But in years past, when I would traditionally say that I do prefer a Spanish style, a column still Spanish style of rum in my daiquiris, I'm slowly being converted over to blended English styles of rum. For example, now Plantation 3 stars, and this pretty new to me, the Kingston 62, which is Appleton's, rebranded Appleton's white rum. And this little baby bottle is actually Montana, Colorado, American sort of rum, white rum. I much prefer those, which are inherently kind of English style. I much prefer those two specifically to the Flor de Caña 4-year-old, which I swore by for years. But then that theory comes undone when I go on to Barbados rum, because I go back to this sort of lighter Spanish style of rum. That Flor de Caña for me is a way better daiquiri than the Dawley's 3-year-old. So you see, it's all rather random. But then I come back to these moody daiquiris, and while these are amazing rums, must-stock rums, you know, the Jamaican, the Appleton 8-year-old, the Dawley's 5-year-old, the Plantation OD, they are amazing must-stock rums. For me, if that Ron Cube is a 10 out of 10 for a daiquiri, they're topping out for me at kind of 5s, maybe 6s out of 10. So while you could take me at my word and think that Ron Cube is the best daiquiri rum, it all comes down to your palate, because I guarantee you, half of you will completely disagree with me. So it really does come down to you having to experiment and find your own path, find your own journey, find your own favourite rums. Now, just very quickly flipping that into a mojito, you know, a mojito is essentially a lengthened out daiquiri with a bit of soda and mint. The same kind of thing applies to me personally. Am I going to send an Appleton 8-year-old mojito back to the bar if it came my way? The chances are no, but I probably would palm it off and I wouldn't enjoy it as much as something like the Ron Cube in a mojito, or at the very least kind of Plantation 3 stars, or the Jamaican, the Appleton Kingston 62. That is my wheelhouse, but I know thousands of you are going to completely disagree, and that is okay. Life would be pretty damn dull if every single person had exactly the same favourite rum. Now, the best rum for a rum and coke, I've talked about that in a very recent video. I shall link that below in the description, so go and check that out if you haven't watched that. And the other big cocktail I want to talk about is the Mai Tai. But before I kind of break down the Mai Tai, a tiki-ish cocktail, there's a few other kind of cocktails I want to break down before that. To start off with, let's look at the Hurricane, or even like punch style cocktails. Now look, what I said at the top of this video about there's no right or wrong, that very much applies to the Kona Hurricanes and the punches. Whatever rum you pick, I guarantee it is going to make a pretty decent cocktail. But for me, the kind of rums that edge these style of cocktails are definitely the darker or the black kind of rums. You know, Plantation OD has a huge role to play in this kind of category. Those punches, those fruitier styles of drink, the pusses, gunpowder proof, even the kind of normal pusses as well, the 40%, but the gunpowder proof has a huge role to play here. But for extra cool little twists and riffs on cocktails, you know, the darker, the black Jamaican rums, we've got that kind of funky little sort of vibe reverbs going onto them. They can put brilliant kind of riffs onto those punches, those fruitier styles of cocktail. And for me personally, if someone gave me, like, let's just break down the Hurricane very, very quickly. It's essentially rum, passion fruit, and lemon juice. 3 simple ingredients. But if you gave me a Hurricane with a lighter white rum, it's going to be a decent cocktail. It is. But if you give me something with extra sort of caramel notes, extra sort of molasses notes going on in a rum, that for me is where that cocktail comes to life. So if you're putting any 3 of these rums into a Hurricane, that's going to take that cocktail for a strong sort of 8, 9 out of 10 for me. But if you put that Rum Cube, that Casablanca in a Hurricane, it's just going to be any other kind of drink. Let's quickly talk about Rum Fashions. This is the cocktail where, for me, the base rum, the quality of the base rum really does play a massive role. Now look, it's absolutely fine if you disagree with me on this, but you know, let's be brutally honest here. The quality of rums, the Rum Fashioned is essentially just rum, a tiny, tiny touch of sugar and kind of bitters of choice. That is essentially, it's the rum that does the work in this cocktail. So for me, and the majority of you, you know, the better the rum, the better the drink. So a Dawley's 12-year-old is going to make a 10 times better Rum Fashion than a Dawley's 5-year-old. That's not slagging the 5-year-old off. It's just the fact that that rum is going to come to life. The Cube, for instance, you know, the Cuban styles of rum, the Rum Cube, the Reserva, for me, again, is going to make a better Rum Fashion than the Carta Dorada. That's what it's suited for. And the same goes for the Flor de Caña as well. While the 7-year-old Flor de Caña is an exceptional rum, do you know what? The 12-year-old is going to be exceptional in a Rum Fashion. And if you can see it up there as well, the 18-year-old. And I don't know why El Dorado's like the forgotten about brand for me this kind of year, 2022. But let's just go up through the ranks. You know, an El Dorado 8-year-old is going to make a better Rum Fashion than the 5-year-old. But, you know, the El Dorado 12-year-old is pretty much the pinnacle. I say it time and time again. Actually, I think this is the exception for the rule as well, because for me, it actually makes a better Rum Fashioned and better sipping neat for me personally than like the 15-year-old. But then to turn the Rum Fashioned on its head and coming back to those darker, the black rums, while all 3 of these rums that I call a must-have in your collection, I really do love these rums. For me, maybe the Plantation OD, but I still think there's better rums. None of these would be my first call for a Rum Fashioned. I don't think they're suited for that cocktail. But that may just be me. Now let's talk about the Pina Colada. And as I've said a few times through this video, again, there is no right or wrong to the rums that you use in a Pina Colada. Each different type of rum that you use will simply make a completely different type of drink. But before I dive into the Pina Colada, I want you to go in the comments below and I want you to type in your 2 go-to rums that you would automatically go for. Your head is already thinking of them. What are 2 rums that you would use in a Pina Colada? And then while you're down there, if you're finding this video useful, then make sure you smash that like button, because that will really help me put this video in front of more of the Rum family. And speaking of Rum family, if you want to connect and make friends with even more Rum fans, then do check out my membership community, because not only do you get exclusive videos, exclusive cocktail videos and tastings and all that kind of stuff, not only do you get free cocktail ebooks, not only do you get access to our after party, our live show after party on Sunday nights, but you also get to join the exclusive part of our Discord server. So do check out the link in the description below, or have a look at the pinned comment, because the link will be there too. Now, going back to the Pina Colada, if I've got my business head on, my pub and bar business head on, I would kind of urge you to go in a direction of the kind of more easier going, the lighter styles of rum, because the customer, when it comes to that sort of thing, if you're not in a big posh sort of tiki bar, if you're just kind of a normal kind of bar that just rocks out the occasional sort of rum cocktail, this is kind of the vibe your customer wants. For example, if you made a Pina Colada with sort of the kind of the richer, more Demerara notes of like an El Dorado or a Guyanan sort of rum, an 8-year-old there, or even kind of those funky sort of Jamaican vibes for an Appleton, they're just not gonna sit well with that type of customer. You know, there is a reason why these 2 rums are probably the most used rums in the kind of average pub or bar up and down the UK. They're just cheap, they're inoffensive, and they do the job pretty well. But you know, if you're at home or you're in a slightly more adventurous kind of pub or bar setting, the classic range, the classic bartender range from Plantation, you know, you could use all 4 of these rums in different ways. You could use a bit of all, 15 ml of each or 30 ml of each in a cocktail, or you could kind of use one of them and they're just going to make amazing kind of pina coladas. All 4 of these will work in different ways, especially kind of like the Plantation, the Stiggins Fancy, the pineapple rum there, but add a little bit of OFTD in, and it just takes that pina colada in a completely different direction, but it's not for everyone. Now, what about those big, funky Jamaican rums, those kind of pot still Jamaican rums, the ones with the big kind of funk notes, or even French rum agricoles? Where do they fit in? What cocktails would you use them for? Now, we know the rum agricole has got its own cocktail, the tea punch, for example. But in truth, if you love that sort of thing, these will make quality additions to any cocktail. But you've really got to be that kind of funk, that kind of grassy fan. These rums are not for everyone. But for me, the best example where you could use a rum like this is actually what I mentioned earlier, the Mai Tai. And those of you not familiar with the Mai Tai, they get familiar with it because it is an amazing kind of rum cocktail. It's essentially a longer, more flavorful daiquiri. Basically, you've got your rum blend, which I'll talk about in a minute, your orange liqueur, your orgeat syrup, your almond kind of syrup there, bitters, and some fresh lime juice. But the Mai Tai itself is all about that rum blend that you use. You traditionally wouldn't use 1 rum in a Mai Tai, and you probably wouldn't use 2 rums. You could use 3, or most cases you use 4 different types of rum. But no matter how many different types of rum you use, whether it's a blend of 2 or a blend of 4, you could use 2 different blends and make 2 completely different tasting Mai Tais. But here's the bit for me. This is where these rums come out to play, because say you use a blend of 4 different rums, 15 ml, 60 ml total of rum in your cocktail, but 4 lots of 15 ml. Simply add in 15 ml of something like this, a big funky Jamaican or an Agricole, for me, really does set that Mai Tai off to a whole new level. And just to showcase what I mean, this at the moment is my go-to blend for a Mai Tai. I've got the kind of lovely sort of Jamaican notes from the 12-year-old Appleton there. I've got OFTD, that overproof kind of rum, which brings sort of Jamaican vibes, but a little bit of Guyana vibes in there. The Black Tot is exceptional kind of rum. So again, Barbados, Jamaica, and Guyana blend in there. But then that little bit, and this is not overproof, this is the other rum bar, but that little bit of feisty, funky kind of Jamaican notes from the Rum Bar Silver. An exceptional Mai Tai, but each one of you will have your own different blend. And just quickly touching on the overproof rums that I mentioned in the Mai Tai, this leads us on nicely to what role does an overproof play into cocktails? Well, very simply, it just adds that little extra dimension, the extra little bit of alcohol kick, the extra bit of sort of rum funkiness coming, especially if you're going for like Jamaican or the Wray and Nephew for that. Overproofs are a must have. And all 3 of these, I think, are must stocks as well. They give very different vibes. You definitely, for me, you kind of need that sort of white, unaged kind of Jamaican, whether it is Rum Bar, whether it is Rum Fire, or whether it is Wray and Nephew. I think you need one of those in your collection. You could narrow it down between those 2. If I was going for one, I'd probably do the OFTD for the all-rounders, but I personally do think you need both of those just to give you something a little bit extra, because the Pusses gives you big kind of Guyana and Demerara notes, whereas this kind of gives you the touch of Jamaican with a little bit of Guyana as well. But it is a lovely kind of sipping rum in its own right. But would you use an overproof, just a single overproof in a cocktail? The only one I think really is the sort of the Tingray, if you like, the kind of Jamaican is Wray and Nephew and Ting, the grapefruit soda, and of course that kind of goes hand in hand with that as well. But there aren't too many kind of cocktails that I would actually say use those on their own as the only kind of rum in a cocktail. For me, they're in additions. 15 mils go a long way in your cocktail. Now, as I said at the top, this video wouldn't give you a specific list of rums to buy, but I'm going to try and narrow those categories down for you just to kind of sum up and give you an overview. So I do think you need a light rum in your collection, whether that is the Cuban style, whether that is like the Plantation or the Appleton, or even a Dominican kind of rum. I do think you need a light white style of rum in your collection. You could possibly just get away with one, or to give you kind of varies, 2, but to have 3, 4, 5 different white rums in your collection, probably at this stage, if you're in the early stage of rum cocktails, is probably a bit overkill. Now, I haven't mentioned in this video, but I also want to tip a nod to spiced rums, because I think spiced rums can add massive variance to a normal cocktail. A spiced rum, for instance, flipping out one of the rums in the Mai Tai and using something like the Pusser's gunpowder proof spiced in there is just going to give you a completely different kind of cocktail. The same with like the cane rock. I did that as a daiquiri just the Sunday just gone in my life, and that is an amazing kind of cocktail as well. So I think there is room for a proper, not overly sweet, a proper out and out kind of spiced rum in your collection. So we've done light rums, I've quickly mentioned spiced rums. Let's go into aged rums. I think kind of something between a 5-year-old and a 12-year-old. Possibly two, possibly one at the lower end and one at the higher end. I kind of think will give you that variance, especially if you like your rum fashions, you want something at the higher end. But if you like kind of fun cocktails, something like the 5 to a 7-year-old would fit perfectly. But do you need 10 different golden aged rums? No, unless you kind of really love what you're drinking like we do here, then kind of 2, maybe 3 would see you in the right direction. But the only thing I would say is try to pick a variance. Try to pick like a blended and a column still rum, because they will give you, again, very different finishes to cocktails. So what I probably, in hindsight, what I could actually say is pick your favourite higher aged rum, a favourite 10 to 12-year-old rum. But then when you come to the lower ones, whether it's a 5-year-old or a 7-year-old or something like that, maybe pick one blended and one column still, just to kind of put you in a different direction. And as I've already mentioned, when it comes to darker and black rums, I think you need to pick one. Again, I've done a video on that, but I really do believe you need one of those rums. And then I really do think you need either like a really high ester Jamaican rum, something like the Hamden or kind of the Rum Bar Silver, or a kind of rum Agricole, because those styles of rums will just put a quirky little twist on your cocktail. So I think that's your starter collection, 6 to 8 different rums. You don't need to go overboard on there, just kind of look at the styles, but I really do think that will help you make and create some awesome cocktails. And then of course, as you go deeper into your rum journey, then you can kind of start experimenting with different rums, different finishes, whether you're going for sherry or port finishes, longer aged casks, pot stills, all those kind of things. You can kind of bring those in. Once you have your favorite cocktails, then you can kind of riff them up with different rums. Now, if you like this video, if you found it really, really helpful, then I think this video as well, I think that's going to help you along your journey and help you make better choices when buying those rums.